desperately in need of jobs because the said friend who had links in the government had told him that he could help get job placement for people. So Otumfuonana then engaged his own family members, took monies from them, and then other people as well. So these were the monies that were put together and handed to this gentleman. After a while, the jobs were not coming. Pressure was mounting on Otumfuonana. At the point, he was even arrested and kept at the Ashoman police station, Ashoman Estate police station. Okay. The family tried and then got him bail. So after his release, he decided to go pursue this gentleman and get the money so he could pay back the individual whose money he had taken. And that's what has landed us where we are today, where first he went missing, but fortunately when he was going to meet the man, he was in constant touch with some of his friends. Okay. So he had indicated that I'm at the gate, I'm going in. He went in indeed, and that was the last time anybody heard of him or heard from him. So as you mentioned, the complaint was lodged. It was treated as a case of a missing person until yesterday when his charged body was found around Kwabena.
We have the family spokesperson joining us now for a conversation on this. For the purpose of this interview, we'll mix with the local language and then English, and then we'll move forward. Kofi Amoako, good morning.
Good morning, brother.
We are sorry to have to speak to you this early morning on this particular matter, but of course, the interest of the family is what we are seeking for, and then indeed justice for your slain family member. Help us understand the story behind this. From July 4, when the complaint was lodged, to now, the family's dealings with the police, the search, and all of that. Kofi Amoako,
yes, I can hear you. Please, my name is not Kofi Amoako. My name is Akwesi Amoako.
Akwesi Amoako.
Yes, please.
So, Akwesi, thank you. I was asking, first of all, our condolences to the family to have to deal with such an issue like this. But from July 3, he went out. July 4, the complaint was lodged to date. Help us understand the engagement with the police, the search, and all of that, how the family dealt with all of this till now.
Thank you very much for calling us. And as you said, it's not easy for the family this morning since our brother left the house and we found him yesterday, as your colleague on the studio was saying. In fact, it's not easy for us at all. But for now, what can we say and what can we do now? What your colleagues were saying was totally how the whole issue was. He left the house last Thursday that he is going to collect the money, as your colleague was saying. And yesterday we just find out that he is no more with us. So, brother, in fact, we are not in ourselves. All the family is down. The story is totally true. And there's nothing we can do about it. So we are just pleading to Ghana police to help us to get justice to this.
I'm so sorry about the situation. For the suspect that the police has in their custody, for him, what has he been saying? I mean, we want to understand how he went to a different location to take money, and then the next thing we hear is he's at a different location where was he en route to the house? Do we know the circumstances around all of these yet?
Yes, he called him to come for the money, as we all know. So he went there. You know, it's not easy if someone is owing you and you are in trouble. Anytime that person will call you, you will not hesitate to follow him. So the guy, as at now, he's not saying anything. If I can just chip in a little bit, he said on police station concerning his statement, he said he's just helping my brother to pay his debt, which he's trying to say that he doesn't have any business doing with him, which is totally false. So for now, when we went to court on last Tuesday, he pleaded not guilty. So the judge remanded him for 2 weeks. So that's where I think I can say for now concerning the issue now, because we are about to go to court here and there. So, on court issue, when you normally give information out to just not help the case.
Take us through how the family got to know about the whereabouts of the body of your late brother. Here na mo na you can show say mo bana waira na Makology police complaint afedi ye hu ne say we free and on can atiasefo ho here na wo na ye bo amane na wo nso kokohu body ne bia na
yo efie let me say yes now you will feel na police don't be framing what say social media or be the baby na yakofa no ko police mortuary enti na no pa na ye nyina ye call baby I lodge complaint dada no enti ye call ho na omo de kohwe baby a no omo ka se nipa no da no enti ye CID nyina na call enti ye kokohwe wie no na CID ni lead ye to the mortuary ho enti me any CID no na ye nyina ye call na ekoko hu se ye nua no na ho no
na who say wonua because nipa waira na waso ho da yakura pense nipa wo mo se waira na de ne mo betene se yesi wafrim because initially on social media ne yesi mo ko he no mo se emu no nya mo ba na enya mo nua na
no cre the social media for no can se ko he na nya nua no na enya no cre we say ye kokoshe ene na enim se eye nua no na ye mpe situation ye ma memu ni kante ya ye nika mo na yere na mane a obi foforo so bete itina etwase ye pe kwan bi a how to manage the information.
How is the wife and the children taking this? How are they handling this?
Minua unim se ewu ya we die efiti enra bepem na busuani bia na yere na obia na esuni areho nko na yewom
na ohwa social media somo san ka say sika no nipa na send the message say or the sika bi amano excess of 300,000 san sem na no cre and the phone message ne eba na yere ho se na social media mo kana na aseden
ane ofifie anwumre no a okoye no ofifie be 8 o'clock by 8:42 na miami nua phone asend message akoma ni pa miensa na yere ene ne yonko phone mienu bi say madru fie asum you say message ni I just want to quote the message. I finally got home. Right house gave me all the money, 500,000 Ghana cedi, and gave me all the passports. So I'm home. I will call you tomorrow morning. This is the message he sent to his wife, and it also something I don't even believe. My brother would never send such a message.
We are sorry you have to deal with this, but before we let you go, in honor of your slain brother, tell us about him. How is he like? Like, we know he's in the immigration service, but who is he? When people see him, what would you remember him for?
My brother, Minuanu Yubia, Chese, Yakase, Ubi, Edoni Pa, Minuanu Yubia, or Kase, or Yebibia, Nahofama, or Dema Busiano, Minuanu Yubia. Sports on the unfair growth say asante kotokone asana say or serious say onfa sa team ni mienu nia bro kumase asante kotokode ne dia na asana so fans ni nyina Ghana ha odimwa tepa enti minuanu yo bi abusua ahwe ade papa Any papa, they say COVID. In fact, Bushia, Yahra, any bre abapa, Quabra, any brabapa, any bre abapa, Kofi Amwande, Wahani papa.
And yesterday you met the police. What was that about? Bokushia police for na a meeting. I'm going.
If much honor, you call police station ho. I'm a police force who the SCA. I'm a police in 24. I'm a regime. I'm a boy bushane man. She fiko be yeah. In the bushan, you been attention and only what the police.
Yeah, but earlier you had mentioned that you had been to the court already. On what basis was the suspect arrested when the body had not been found? Or was it under suspicion that indeed something had gone wrong, or it was on the back of the missing person complaint that you launched?
No, we went to police station because of the messages we received. And he was the last person he seen. So when we are not finding him, I think he'll be the first suspect.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay.
Akwisian Wako, Yamamo. Condolences to the family. Yako, right? Yeah. Yamamo Yako. Your bonfire say Ghana Police Service, the justice the family deserves, you can have it for your slim brother. Your bonfire best so pushy for the Ghana Police Service to help you. Nipana Odisa etutrasemi ebenyano near the naba abansim nafe. You say Emmanuel.
But we did GHOne, Yadamase pass my friend, Yomuji DSM mobile boy, I and Shushimu, the Butia Akomato, Yadamase pa Yamin Shamo.
That's Sonia Kasai. I be this.
Yes.
It's sad. And for me, 2 lessons here about giving. The first one is it's 8 p.m. I'm going to see someone.
Yeah.
How is it that bad around that time to step out to see someone? I mean, is it not safe any longer?
It's supposed to be, but for the transaction that took him out of his house, the desperation, because of the pressure from the people he had taken money from. 400,000 Ghana cedis. It's not an amount of money you receive physically. That's an amount of money that should be wired through a bank account. But this is a gentleman who has been locked up because he took money from people with the promise of securing them jobs and travel opportunities. He had taken their passports together with their monies and handed them over to a gentleman who claims to be in a position to help. And so when you are released from cells, the last thing you think about will be, can I carry 400,000 Ghana cedis physically? Is it safe for me to go out there and receive 400,000 Ghana cedis physically? Or I would rather demand that the money be lodged in an account. I've seen those arguments. Those arguments cannot hold. This is a desperate man who needed his freedom and had been given that glimmer of hope that come for the money.
And everything will be okay.
That's it. And you can tell, if you follow the trail, you can tell that it just happened that the promise of come for the money did not exist. And so what can we do? Let's, of course, allegedly, murder you and bury everything together with the debt and everything, your pressure with you. And you saw what they did. Yeah, exactly, just to mislead the family and sway investigations to the other end. And guess what they did? They wrapped him up in a carpet and set the carpet ablaze. That's somebody, you can tell that these suspects are people who have been watching too many CSIs and then movies and Hollywood movies.
Because the idea, and for me, is the location. They went to a bush in the gutter, find a way to burn it, as though someone, usually it's a habit to burn around gutters. So it comes off as though, and from the scenes you can see on the screens, it comes off as though, some rubbish is just being burned. But just wondering the thinking behind all of this. But quite critical also is the messaging from the guy, the gentleman who is dead now, to his wife and family before stepping out, and people noticing the message that came after he stepped out. So it means that as people, we need to start paying attention to how people communicate with us.
That's true.
Because if not for the notice of, oh, that's not how he sends me a message, that's not how he speaks to me, I'm pretty sure it would have just been seen as a normal thing. And if he's missing, say someone else had killed him. Wow.
Well, we can, and like the man rightly said, Akwesi rightly said, he's an ardent supporter of Asante Kotoko. In fact, because of his security background, he was involved in the security arrangement for Kotoko whenever Kotoko is playing matches. And so he's an integral part of not just the support base of Kumasi Asante Kotoko, but the club itself and the team itself. And so it's not just the family that's grieving. It's not just the Ghana Immigration Service that's grieving. The Kumasi Asante Kotoko Football Club as well is grieving. And we can only hope that these individuals, these organizations, these bodies, and the entire country gets justice for this man. Because nobody should exit this way.
No, not at all. No one deserves to be killed that way, especially in matters where he didn't do wrong. He promised something, he's just assisting. But of course, let's all be cautious out there. Let's all be careful. Someone told me once that, you should say Accra stay by plan. And everyone in Accra is selfish. Everyone has a motive.
Most definitely.
So you may be trusting someone, but you don't know what the person is thinking. So let's all be cautious out there. We definitely pray and hope that some work will be expedited. Over time, we've seen the Ghana Police Service be much more forceful when it comes to these things.
And remember, because the gentleman spoke to you, let's try to at least summarize exactly what he said. You asked about how the wife and the kids are feeling. It says, for the past 24 hours, they've not been able to sleep. They've not been able to eat. Because the wife has lost the husband, the children have lost the father, and the circumstances under which this happened, it's heartbreaking. And so that's the toll it's having on them. You asked a direct question about who he was. An affable gentleman, down to earth, and with very infectious character in a positive way as well. And as I mentioned, he indicated that he supported two football clubs, Arsenal and Kumasi Asante Kotoko.
God rest his soul, and we'll bring you more on this as and when we get the information from the Ghana Police Service concerning the state of investigations. But Ivy, thank you so much for joining us to discuss this very important matter. That does it for Inside Out. Up next, we have Court Today. Mutala is standing by. Mutala Inusa joins me now with Court Today. Mutala, good morning.
Good morning, Emmanuel.
We're just discussing a matter that you would be soon reporting about for us.
Very sad when I saw. In fact, this morning I was reading on my way, and I was reading what actually unfolded, and it's a very sad situation.
The heart of man.
Yeah, how can you just have a plan and all of this? At least somebody has been arrested, and investigations will lead to justice at some point in time. So we wait patiently to see what will become of it.
My only concern in all of this is that even if they give you Elon Musk's money,
the life lost will never come back.
The joy you get from the person,
absolutely, is gone.
The fact that you could hold the person dear, and all you are left to live with is memories. And sometimes those memories do not even bring any joy.
Absolutely. I remember the number of times that I've spoken to parties about how they feel after a relation was killed and then the perpetrator is convicted and sentenced. Their message has always been one: at least the matter has been put to rest. Our relation will not come back again, but at least somebody has been held responsible. The emphasis has always been our relation will not come back to life again. And for the family, they've lost big time. That's unfortunate. That's really, really unfortunate.
We pray and hope that justice is indeed served for the family to have some closure, especially in this matter. But today is 10th July 2025. Tomorrow is 11th. That is the day the EC plans to have its rerun in Ablekuma North.
Yes, Ablekuma North is in the news again. And yesterday, for those who were monitoring the event on this platform and our platforms, will see and then would have some knowledge on what has happened. Yesterday, Ekwefriye, the NPP parliamentary candidate for the 2024 parliamentary elections at Ablekuma North, had issues with the EC vis-a-vis the directive from the EC to have some 19 polling centers rerun. And he said, look, no. The EC cannot do that. In all material times, what you have been communicating to us is that there are 3 outstanding polling centers that you could not find solution to. So how come it is now 19? So they went to court yesterday with an ex-parte motion. Ex-parte in the sense that because of the urgency of the matter, if the courts do not step in, the rerun would have taken place, and they are of the view that the irreparable damage caused Ekwefriye will not be able to, the state cannot be able to compensate her at the end. So the motion was to the effect that injunct the process, put a 10-day interim injunction on it, and the interim injunction always comes with days. It lasts not more than 10 days. And so after 10 days,
that's
they are
10
now
working days,
absolutely
right?
10 working days. And after that, they will now put the parties involved, the Electoral Commission, Agyabeng, who is an interested party, and then the NDC, on notice that we are filing. In fact, they are yet to file what they want to file. But they are saying that injunct them, then we'll then file, come to court and argue our cases. And what are the cases that they want to argue out? They are saying that sometime in January 1 and January 4, the issue of mandamus became a household name. So Justice for Zimbabwe granted an application for mandamus from 4 candidates. Ablekuma North is one of them, Okankwe Central, Techiman Central and Tema Central, Techiman South and Tema Central. Those 3 have been dealt with. But that of Ablekuma North is still outstanding. I remember that 62 polling centers were the polling centers in issue in relation to Ablekuma North, where the court asked that go and collate the outstanding ones and then declare the results. The EC, per their own showing, according to the NPP side, Gary Nimakun yesterday when he was moving the argument, has always maintained that out of the number, they have been able to resolve -2, 3 of them. So in all material time, in their view, it is only 3 polling centers left for them to. So, why now 59. Are you saying that it is 19? So it is that they want to challenge. Then there was a question from the judge and said, look, the EC is the constitutionally mandated body to organize, collate, and declare election results. The EC, per the letter that the MPP side attached to their own motion, said that our presiding officers cannot verify and confirm figures of these 19 polling centers. So on what basis can they verify, confirm, and declare results when the officers are saying that they cannot verify that? Clearly, there's something wrong with those polling centers. So if the EC is saying the best solution is to go for a rerun, in the eyes of the court, that is a good step. So that request for interim injunction yesterday, the court said there's no merit in it, it's not meritorious, and same was dismissed because the court made the point that Ekwefriye can be compensated irrespective of the situation, rather than the other way around. So in the midst of that, so as you can see on your screen, these are the support that she had when the matter came up yesterday before Justice Ali Baba Abaturi. Pretty surely you see Ekwefriye herself also come up in the videos that we
leaving the court with smiles.
Absolutely. At this particular point in time, you will not be happy. So that is Ekwefriye in the middle of some of them. And in fact, a process is being served on her in relation to another case. And you see one of the people with her had to drop it on the floor after the bailiff has served there. That is not related to what happened yesterday, my understanding. That's not related to that. But what is clear is that yesterday, and moments after the court sitting, they wouldn't make any comments after the case was dismissed. So the hopes of Madam Ekwefriye to have this whole process stopped, at least for 10 days, to be able to put the EC, Rabna Obi, and the NDC on notice, failed because the court thinks that the EC that has the constitutional mandate to organize the election is saying that the order to go and collate, declare results, he is saying that they cannot verify results of 19 polling centers, for which reason the best solution is to go for a rerun. So tomorrow is the 11th of July that the EC is expected to do that. So
we're bringing you coverage, except of what happens in Ablekuma.
I've seen campaign trails of Arabna Obi in some market situation and all of that.
Actually, yesterday, on my way home around 8 p.m.,
you're still on there?
I used the Kanesha Doko Highway, Abuzia Junction. I chanced on the vehicle, so the NDC pickup, there was 2 pickups, and then there was a Land Cruiser. And it was just the team. They are still campaigning.
Yeah, they are campaigning.
So some MPP members are saying, you know what, just get to the grassroots. Because predominantly that seat has been for the MPP.
Absolutely.
So just get to the grassroots and just do your campaign.
Who knows? But she is of the view that she's won the elections and they are finding a way to change the result. The will of the people is the same people who will come out to vote. If the same people voted for you, I'm not sure there's something that is going to change their mind this time. Go for it. But of course, when it comes to party politics, there's a way, and a lot of, it's not only about what you and I see. There are a lot of things that go inside. It's just like football, hard cut or play. I tell you what, you have no idea what happened the night before the day of the football. People even go and sleep in the stadium because they know what is going to happen.
Indeed. Let's do some other matters in the court as well.
SkyTrain
that never came to be.
Yes, the SkyTrain. Professor Christopher Amuyakunfi, Solomon Asamoah. So Professor Christopher Amuyakunfi was the former board chair of Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund. And then Solomon Asamoah was the CEO. And both of them have been charged together, 6 counts combined. And their role in relation to the $2 million that the state has lost by way of the project. And what was the project? To get a SkyTrain, a train that we can use that will pass through the sky and it will not have to go through traffic and all of that. At the end, the AG makes the point that some $2 million was paid without board approval and all of that. So once the state has lost this money, some people will have to be accountable for it, and the two have been held. Yesterday, the parties were in court, and I did say that Professor Christopher Amuyakunfi has a motion pending, and that motion is urging the court to strike out the action against him because he thinks that it is premature. And so yesterday, it was a subject matter that was going to be dealt with. Yesterday, when the parties came, their lawyers were present. Mrs. Sefako Bache held the fort for the Attorney General and makes the point that immediately lawyers for the second accused, and Professor Christopher Amuyakunfi is the second accused, they make the point that the application that they have filed, they've had some engagement and they have come to a conclusion that they want to withdraw it. So yesterday they withdrew that application seeking to strike out the action on grounds of it being premature. And so once that was withdrawn, in the context of things, the court will just write that this very application is struck out as withdrawn. So it's not struck out because for want of prosecution, but sometimes in a criminal leg, when you have shown countless times that you are not willing, there is a way that by not presenting your witness, by not showing up in court and all of that, that one, the court can strike it out for want of prosecution and all of that. But this one, they themselves say that we are withdrawing that particular action. So it was struck out as withdrawn by Justice Comfort Tasiam. And guess what? Now, following the end of disclosure document and a case management conference, the court is saying that July 23, the trial will begin. And the trial is beginning by way of prosecution calling the very first of their 8 witnesses to come and testify. So that is what happened yesterday in relation to the SkyTrain. Professor Christopher Amuyakunfi yesterday withdrew his own application seeking to strike out the action, and also Justice Comfort Asiame has settled on July 23 for the trial to begin by way of prosecution, putting in the very first of their witnesses.
In the box.
Yes, in the box.
The CJ.
Yes.
You broke the news to us from the deputy AG's post. Now I hear she's seeking damages in the excess of, the figure I mean, $10 million
yes.
For her reputation being soiled and marred.
Yes, so the day before yesterday, Deputy Attorney General Dr. Desperation confirmed that the Lady Chief Justice has sued Ghana, the Republic of Ghana, at the ECOWAS court in Abuja. And so we're looking for the document, the processes that the Lady Chief Justice has filed at the ECOWAS court. And rightly so, yesterday, we were able to lay hands on copies of the processes that she, through her lawyers, has filed or have filed at the ECOWAS court, ECOWAS Community Court of Justice. And interesting, if you look at the manner in which she detailed her presentation, first of all, she described herself, her full name, Justice Arabai Saba Sakitokono, the fact that she is the Chief Justice, and the fact that she lives in the Chief Justice residence at Cantonment. Ghana is a signatory to the ECOWAS Community Court. Then she went out to set out the issues there, the violations that she's suffering or she's going through by way of since April 2022, when the president suspended her. And then she narrated the facts of all that has happened, including things that we heard in the press conference that she had recently. Yes. And then on top of that, so at the end of summing up all these things, then she put together reliefs. So now she is seeking some 9 major reliefs. And let's go through the reliefs on your screen, and then quickly we'll tell you how she arrived at saying that she needs, or Ghana, she should be compensated with some $10 million. So the first of the declaration, so out of the 9 reliefs, 5 of them are declaration, and then 4 of them are orders that she's seeking. But let's look at the declaration that she's asking for. 1, a declaration that the suspension of the applicant here is the Chief Justice, as the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana by the President on 22nd April 2022, violated the applicant's human rights to fair hearing guaranteed by Article 7 of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. Let's look at the next one, B. So the B will also be telling you about a declaration to the effect that the panel constituted by or instituted by the respondent as the president or the Ghana to investigate and to determine the allegations of misconduct against the applicant was not constituted to guarantee its independence and impartiality, and as such has violated her human right to fair hearing guaranteed under the Article 7 of the African Charter on Human Rights and People's Rights. Then the C, she's asking for a declaration that the purported suspension of her by Ghana or by the president of the respondent state, that's Ghana, constitute a violation of her rights, her human right to fair, equitable, and satisfactory conditions guaranteed under Article 15 of African Charter. Okay, let's look at the next one, human rights and people. Then the 4th declaration is that to the effect that the purported suspension of her by Ghana or by the president of Ghana has exposed her to public ridicule and odium locally and internationally. And the said act constitute a violation of her human rights to dignity as guaranteed under Article 5 of African Charter of Human and People's Rights. Then the last of the declaration is the fact that a declaration that by subjecting the applicant to an illegal and an unfair investigation and trial since April 2025, the respondent, that is Ghana, has inflicted injuries on her professional standing and image, thereby exposing her and her family to immeasurable public ridicule. So these are the 5 declarations that she is seeking by way of the action that she has initiated at the ECOWAS court. Now, what are the 4 major orders that she is seeking from the ECOWAS court? Director, let's look at the next one, and then we'll tell you about the orders. So here you are. The first order that she's seeking is an order to the respondent Republic, that is Ghana, to act immediately to prescribe the rules of procedure to govern the investigation of allegations of misconduct against the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana in conformity with the right to fair hearing guaranteed by the Constitution of Ghana and the African Charter on Human Rights, on Human and People's Rights. So in her view, what she's going through now is not the proper setting, it's not the proper prescribed procedure for her to go. Let's look at the next one, the next relief. An order directing Ghana to immediately lift the suspension and restore the applicant to full office until the conclusion of the fair constitutional proceedings. So now she's on suspension. She's saying that, look, you have to restore me back to my, as it were, so that I'll continue to do my work, and the process will still have to continue. Let's look at the next one. Okay, the other relief that is also asking for is an order restraining Ghana from continuing with the purported inquiry for the removal of the applicant as the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana in its current form until it conforms to fair hearing guarantees. And then let me tell you, the one that you want to hear at the end of summing up all these declaration reliefs and orders, she's asking the ECOWAS court for this: an award of $10 million as compensation for moral and reputational damages suffered by the applicant. And the applicant here again is the Chief Justice as a result of her illegal suspension and unfair investigation. So these are the issues and these are the declarations or reliefs being sought by the Lady Chief Justice Gertrude Saki Tokono following her suspension. All that she's saying is that, look, I have gone through a lot. I have suffered both emotionally, locally. I've also suffered locally, internationally, and all of that. And for reputational damage, you need to compensate me with $10 million. So these are some of the things that the Lady Chief. In the coming days, we'll know when the ECOWAS court will deal with this matter. Don't forget also that there's one pending at the Human Rights Court on the 15th of July. It will come up. There's one also pending at the Supreme Court. That one will also come out when it is fixed. And then this one has also come up. You know,
$10 million, if I use the interbank rates, I'm seeing around 120 million Ghana cedis.
I see.
The thoughts of people will be like, this money is huge. And perhaps some education here. When you call them the plaintiff, right? When plaintiff seeks some compensation, this woman, they mention those numbers, those huge amounts. Does it include monies they'll be paying to perhaps their legal representatives and all of that? Or so, they raise the amount high so that the court will beat it down?
So, with the experience that I've had in court, sometimes even let's use defamation as an example. So people, there's always a target. You know within your heart that you want 100,000 Ghana cedis, but you raise the figure to say 5 million cedis. So that by the time the case is dealt with, if you have a case, the court probably will say, okay, 500,000 Ghana cedis. Your expectation has been met even beyond. So it's a strategy that parties employ, lawyers always employ, and all of that. But in respect of this one, it's a different ballgame altogether. This is the first time we are seeing a sitting Chief Justice being subject matter of removal. And so things that they put in, especially, she has not demanded any of these compensation, both two cases, issues that have been filed in our local court, except with the ECOWAS court and all of that. So it is based on the ECOWAS court to also look at, based on the ECOWAS court will hear submission, argument from both parties, and of course you expect the Office of the Attorney General to also respond to this one and also respond to some of the allegations, some of the things that she has stated in this particular, her injunction was dealt with. But we will be monitoring this as it unfolds before the ECOWAS court that will be sitting in Nigeria. The ECOWAS court has been in Ghana before, but they sat one sometime in 2022 to do. Very interesting when you appear before the committee. There are some few changes with respect to things that they do there to what we do here. But of course, we will be monitoring that, and then we'll see what will become of this case.
But are their decisions always binding on member states?
That is always the challenge of the ECOWAS court. So decisions are not binding So when it comes to enforcement, so most often than not, when you meet the ECOWAS team, they say that they are urging on the member countries to make sure that they enforce their decision. Recently, when there was an ECOWAS training session for the state attorneys, I had the opportunity to speak to the rep of the ECOWAS court, and even with Ghana's Solicitor General, Ellen Akpenedziwu, she made the point that even that, when the whole thing is not even, Ghana is still making the steps to ensure that they enforce decisions that come out from the ECOWAS court. And they are all member countries. Once you're a member of the ECOWAS community court, it is your duty to ensure that decisions that come out are enforced. And Ghana, the understanding that I have is on track to ensure that whatever they need to do to ensure that they enforce decisions that come from the ECOWAS court, they will do, because together we stand. But that has always been the challenge of the ECOWAS court.
Mutala, thank you so much for bringing us up to speed on what is happening in our courts and beyond. And that will be it for Court Today. When we return from this break, our guests will be with us and we'll begin our breakfast review segment on the morning show. Stay with us.
or even 4 a.m., 3 a.m. And so sometimes a whole day you can be in the chamber without eating. Other times, for just that ability to satisfy hunger, you settle in for any food at all. And of course, you finish eating, ordinarily you must have room to walk around, exercise, just to aid and enhance digestion. But then look, there's very little room. And so we, as a parliament, we must take decisive steps to reintroduce the issue of exercise, the issue of diet, and of course, how we manage our time much better, just so it doesn't impact our health. And this must not just be for only MPs, because look, honestly, Ghanaians die on a daily basis anyway. The reason this death has taken so much toll on us is the fact that we are only but 275 at the moment, representing all the corners of this country. And once an elected member falls, it presupposes that the entire constituency has fallen. It's like a battlefield. Once the commander is shot down, I mean, the contingent itself cannot stand.
That's true.
They stand on wobbly grounds. And so that is why we seem to be a bit fixated in discussing his death. And truly so we must, given his importance and how much it costs us as a nation. Elect one of us to represent all of us in the August House of Parliament. And so I agree with you that health must be prioritized, most importantly, above what we do, because you must be alive first before you serve your nation and your people.
That's true. Our condolences to the House, to the family, and even the constituents. This is the Breakfast Review segment on GH Today. I've been engaging the Honourable Member of Parliament for the Afajato South constituency, the Honourable Frank Efriye. We'll get back to the conversation when the other guest joins us, but also a matter that I'll let the Honourable Member respond to. But now, we do know the Ghanaian travelers hoping to make multiple trips to the United States may now face tighter restrictions because the U.S. government has revised its visa policy for Ghana. Under the new rules, most non-immigrant visa applicants, including students and tourists, will be issued single-entry visas valid for just 3 months. The change with the U.S. says is based on reciprocity, contrast previous arrangements that allowed for longer multiple visa entries. My colleague Tutu Adanso has this explainer and explains all of this for us to know.
Imagine this. You've packed your bags with tickets in one hand and you're ready for that spontaneous work trip or that long-awaited vacation to the USA, only to realize that your visa won't get you back into the country after this one entry. Well, that is the reality now for most Ghanaians because the USA has updated its visa reciprocity rules, and so that means that for most people, it is fewer entries and shorter stays. Previously, many Ghanaians could get multiple entry visas that lasted up to 5 years, but now, unless you are a diplomat or in a special category, like a K visa for spouses or fiancés of US citizens, you are likely to get just a single entry visa that lasts only 3 months. That includes the B1 and B2 visa, which covers business and tourism, and even the F1 student visa. Well, yes, even students now get a visa that's valid for only 1 entry and expires after 3 months. But why the change? Well, the US says it is all about reciprocity, basically matching how Ghana treats US citizens when they apply for visas. So essentially, this new rule means that more hassle for frequent travelers because you'd have to reapply every time you want to go. And that's obviously more paperwork, more stress, and more money. So it also follows a similar change recently made for Nigerians. So clearly, it is part of a bigger shift in US visa policy. Well, the bottom line here is that if you are planning a trip to the USA, especially for school or multiple business visits, just plan well, apply early, and be ready, however, to spend more. This is Tutu Adanso for GHOne Television and Star FM.
Let's engage Professor Kwadwo Appiagyei.
Particular context of the U.S., they benefit a lot from students studying in their countries. It's a multi-billion-dollar business, and so the U.S. benefits a lot from that. And there are also job opportunities for students that graduate and so on. And so at the end of the day, it attracts students to travel and possibly to stay back and to work. And so in that respect, since opportunities are there, students take advantage of that. And I'm not sure that is something that is bad for the U.S. economy. It's rather bad for the Ghanaian economy in terms of Ghanaian students who travel there. So long as those opportunities are there, I'm not sure it is being abused. But of course, you can talk about other situations where students abuse their privileges. For example, some do go and they don't go to the classroom at all. They just go and enter into the field, work underground or under the table and earn some money. So these are the kind of people who have given a bad name to Ghanaian students and other Ghanaian tourists going to the U.S. But I think the approach that the U.S. government is taking is wrong, and it has received a lot of backlash, even among the universities, U.S. universities, and other scholars and academics and people from other disciplines, because it is not informed by the need to promote what we call academic mobility, whereby students and academics have the freedom to cross boundaries, to study, to research, to do training, to attend conferences, and so on. It is informed more by a perspective that is racist motivated. It can be xenophobic, and for that matter, it is not biased. It is not fair, and it's biased. And that is what is important for the U.S. to take into account and to realize how much in the end it will actually lose when this process, these rules begin to apply. But it's also an opportunity for African governments in particular to realize that most of the students who travel outside do so because of limited educational opportunities, how we treat our graduate students and so on, which compels some of them to travel outside the country for further studies. And so if we improve our own conditions here, it will attract more students to study here, because it is not everybody that goes outside and have opportunity after graduation to earn a better living or enter into academia and so on. Some end up on the street, some end up doing menial jobs. So some would prefer to have studied here. So it's up to governments of Ghana and other African countries to make sure that they pay more attention to university education and to invest in it and to provide money for research and so on, so that to attract students to study here. And in the end, there will not be a brain drain issue and so on. And we can benefit from the expertise that they produce working within, studying within the universities in our countries.
But we do understand that this move, as you rightly indicated, has been met with a lot of backlash. But we are made to understand that it's based on the principles of reciprocity, where the U.S. is saying how we receive their citizens here is the same that is being applied. If you look at the slash from 5 years to 3 months, I want to find out from you, how reciprocal is this move by the U.S. government, especially on Ghana?
No, that claim is unfounded. The reciprocity rule has not been violated, if at all, not to the extent that it is being touted about. Ghanaians still welcome U.S. citizens to visit, and Ghanaians benefit, the Ghanaian economy benefit from tourism. Last year, I just heard some statistics about increase in tourism last year, and the majority will certainly come for the U.S., including especially the African Americans. The AU is promoting a lot of activities to promote people in the diaspora to visit the continent. There are particular programs relating to reparations and so on. So they are being attracted to come to the country, and the government is not putting serious strains on their entering the country. So the decision by the U.S. government is not informed by Ghana putting any restrictions on Americans from visiting Ghana. So that claim is unfounded. It's just routes for the U.S. government to do its own thing, which is part of the president's policy of putting America first, but which in this era of globalization, if you apply it strictly, it tends to hurt the country that is putting up those policies for implementation itself in the end. So it's important for the U.S. government to realize that, because very soon it's going to bite, and those who will lose is also going to be part of the U.S. is also going to be part of the losers in this game.
When this news broke yesterday, we had an engagement with the deputy ranking on the Foreign Affairs Committee of Parliament, that is in the person of the Honourable Member for Bosomtwe, that's Asafo Adjei. He says that he can confirm that this decision is due to the closure of Ghana's embassy in Washington, D.C. Is this possible remotely?
It's difficult to tell from where I sit. But of course, frankly, the approach of the Honorable Foreign Minister was a little bit, I don't know whether it's a personal decision, but that decision generally didn't go very too well. It was important to have discovered some scandal there and to be able to plug the holes to avoid that. But closing the embassy in the way it was done created a lot of problems, and it led to people canceling their flights, and it led to a lot of chaos for people intending to visit the country. But it did not only affect Americans, and it wasn't a permanent measure. It was a temporary measure for a particular reason, even though there were some gaps in how it was, the whole approach was undertaken. So I don't think we can say it's a major issue that has precipitated that reaction from the U.S. Generally, the U.S. government, the present U.S. government is anti-immigration. And if you look at the amount of money that they put into the budget, in their current budget to deal with anti-immigration issues, it is huge, extremely huge. And so it is a policy which Donald Trump used in his campaign, and he's trying to fulfill that campaign promise. So it is not related to any other issue. If at all, it's just an excuse that they are using. So in the end, that policy is anti-immigration, and it is not only the U.S. There are a number of countries in Europe that is also implementing similar policies. Greece, for example, just yesterday informed the EU that it is going to suspend refugee applications and so on. And that is clearly in violation of international law. Refugees are allowed, or asylum seekers are allowed to seek refuge anywhere in the world, so long as they are being persecuted. And America is doing similar things by building a wall between the U.S. and Mexico and so on. Yeah, so that is where the problem is, or what is causing this visa restrictions issues, but not what the U.S., the Ghana government did in its U.S. embassy or high commission.
Our neighboring Nigeria is also with us on the same matter. They're suffering same. And I've seen a statement from their Foreign Affairs Ministry indicating that they are not happy with it and looking forward to a change in that particular policy by the Trump administration. Nigeria is begging. What should be the posturing of Ghana? Should we also beg?
Well, I don't know if we can, the term begging is appropriate, but it shouldn't be begging, because states are equal under international law. And they enjoy the same status in international law, even though they don't exercise the same powers, or they don't have the same powers to influence international law and international relations. And so at the end of the day, states may demand for some changes in the rules or in bilateral relations between two countries, or sometimes at the multilateral level. But it's a question of negotiating. It's a question of how much do I lose, and what compromises I can make to be able to gain some benefits from my relationship with another country or a couple of countries or with an international organization. The Nigerian posture I think it's a step in the right direction to some extent, or to the extent that both countries will benefit if the old rules are respected, and both countries are going to lose if the rules are changed. But the point is that because of the fact that African countries do not invest as they should in higher education, especially at the level of graduate studies, there is this challenge where there's a lot of pressure on governments to make sure that students who graduate, and you also know the unemployment situation, so a lot of students will want to do further studies to be able to make sure that they don't lie idle. So it is as a result of the pressure that the Nigerian government and other African governments are going to face as a result of these restrictions, African governments and African universities, even the universities themselves, to ensure that we put our houses in better shape so that with first class and second class uppers and so on, to do their graduate studies within the country, given the favorable environment, given scholarship opportunities, given respect for what they do, to be published and so on. There are a lot of situations where students' works are plagiarized and published by professors and so on. So when we're able to put all these things in place, which is generally respecting academic freedom, the academic freedom of students, it is going to reorient their minds to focus more internally so that we can benefit from the expertise that come out of it. Most of the students that go out, even those on government scholarships, they don't come back. So because of the unattractiveness of the conditions at the universities for them to come and do research and to teach, as well as the general economic conditions which do not allow them to find jobs easily. And so they prefer, even sometimes some of them will prefer to do menial work outside the country than to come back into the country to study. But the opportunities are here. And so if we organize we put our house in order, the relationship between governments, the universities and industry are properly organized and are working, we can get students to study here when they are assured of job opportunities, when they are assured that what they research on will be respected and they will be put into practice. I'm sure things will change. And so in a way, what is happening now indirectly is a call to African governments that if we put our house in order, we actually benefit from these restrictions that the U.S. government is placing on our students from traveling there to study, because in the end, the U.S. benefits more from what we benefit from when our students go outside to study.
Mm-hmm. Back home, we are yet to hear a public address to this matter. Is that concerning? I mean, Nigeria has already released a statement. We are yet to hear anything from government publicly concerning this restriction. Is that concerning?
In a way, it is. And generally, we know that the records are not very good for the Ghanaian government when it comes to how it treats its students abroad. There are some who are on scholarships, and for months and even years, they've not been paid. They go begging, some go into prostitution and so on to make ends meet. And so generally, the Ghanaian government has a bad record when it comes to helping students who are abroad. The GET fund is one big challenge where we've had scandals where previously people don't qualify, rather get the funding to go and study outside. So here, where we have a situation where students are finding their own ways to travel, some get scholarships that they worked hard to obtain on their own, I think it will be appropriate for the government to issue a statement. A statement will not necessarily to beg, but at least to express concern and to express disapproval of those policies, and to ask and demand for some form of renegotiation of the terms so that students can benefit. And I think it should not just end there. There should be arrangements where governments, between Ghanaian government and the U.S. government, for example, should negotiate in such a way that Ghana can still benefit from students that travel outside, graduate, and are working in American universities or other establishments, some of them do come. So I know a few friends and professors who come every year to come and teach at the University of Ghana, pretty much for free, or they come under various foundations support to come here. And so this is a kind of arrangement which should be deepened. At this stage, it's not between the two governments, but between the one university, another university, or between a university and a foundation that is providing financial support for the professors to come to Ghana and teach. And so the discussion should go beyond, should not be limited to just a visa opportunities for students or potential students, but also for how Ghana can benefit from their students who travel outside. And previously, for example, there was this arrangement by the UN, International Organization for Migration, where academics who have completed or students who have graduated and are not finding appropriate jobs in the foreign countries are migrated, giving some support to migrate and to giving some further support to establish themselves in the country and to be of more benefit to the country in terms of the expertise that they have gained outside, which they want to invest in the country. And I think the Ghana government should also look at that possibility. When we send students abroad, we should take very good care of them and give them the necessary incentives and packages to return so that they can also find opportunities to work and improve the economy. Because we live in a knowledge economy. And so we depend a lot on the expertise of those who have gained higher education. Of course, not to discount what ordinary persons are doing to make things work better in the country. But this kind of expertise in the sciences generally is something that should be encouraged so that benefits will accrue to the country.
Prof, I know you have to go, but please, this final one. Concerning the suspended CJ's decision to go to the ECOWAS court to seek redress over her removal process, what do you make of it?
Well, I would just restrict myself to that, going to the Court of Justice, ECOWAS Court of Justice. In the first place, the CJ has a right to do that. And the ECOWAS Court of Justice is one of the few international institutions or tribunals that allow for what we call non-exhaustion of local remedies. In other words, typically, if, for example, the case should go to the African Commission or the African Court on Human and People's Rights, the CJ should have exhausted all local remedies. So she should have finished the case at the committee level, any case at the Supreme Court, any case at the High Court, and so on. And she's still not got justice before she can go to this fora. But before the ECOWAS Court of Justice, at any point in time, anybody not feeling that justice is being served for his or her case can go there. So she's taking that opportunity. And I think that there is a possibility that the court, she can find justice at the court in terms of the human rights issues, because she has complained about human rights issues. I don't know to what extent they can be concretely recognized as rights violations. But when rights violations take place, they trump over any judicial processes or mechanisms that a country may have. We've already criticized the fact that the process for the removal of the Chief Justice is unfair, it violates certain rules and even the judicial independence and so on. But if we are going by what the Constitution is saying, then we have to, there's no way she can challenge the process. But when there's a human rights issue, the human rights issue trumps over any other issue, and it should be given prominence so that that person's right to fair trial, due process, and so on is respected. So on that basis, there's a possibility that she can get a good judgment from the ECOWAS Court of Justice. I'm just saying that there may be, and it's dependent on if she has solid grounds on human rights grounds that she's not being treated fairly, due process has been denied her, it's not a fair trial, the ECOWAS Court can intervene And that decision will question what we are doing internally, because that is what international law is about. The international law process takes precedence, or it can overrule a decision by a local court. But of course, at the end of the day, it's a question of whether the country can enforce it, or is happy to, or is willing to implement it. That is another issue with international law, which makes international law, people question whether international law is law, because it's at the whims of the country, which is a state party to that international law, to determine if it will obey it or not.
All right.
And so that's my take on this. Thank you very much.
Professor Kwadwo Appiagyei, thank you so much for speaking with us. He's an international law expert and an associate professor at the University of Ghana, Legon. I still have with me the honorable member for the Apajato South constituency, Honorable Frank Efriye. Honorable, apologies for the long wait.
That's fine.
Stemming from the comments by Professor Appiagyei on the CJ's decision to go to the ECOWAS Court of Justice, he mentions that she may get what she wants in terms of the human rights violations that she is raising concerns about in her press and even in the motion she's filed before the court, and even the compensation she's demanding thereof. What do you make of this?
Well, thank you very much. Let me defer superiority to the professor. Of course, he has in-depth knowledge in the workings and teachings of the law. But I think that the law itself is just about 70-80% of common sense and logic. As I sit here as a member of parliament, pursuant to certain things that I will do right or wrong, particularly wrong before the law, I am immune. I'm not immune in any way from removal from office. And so the prof has mentioned that, yes, there could, at the end of the day, be some favorable judgment in her case on grounds of violations of her rights. If indeed, ultimately, the ECOWAS court rules that there have been legitimate violations of rights, or violations of rights have been occasioned, then I think that it speaks into detail of the ills of our judicial system. Because this is one of you. This is, of course, some few days ago, your leader. And what are those rights that we are talking about? She's mentioned a couple of things. The question is that, can the case proceed without those issues? The other question is that, can those sitting on her case also give her the benefit of the doubt and just look into those issues? The substantive case, as we have, is still pending. The Chief Justice is not speaking to the substantive case, but she's speaking to violations of rights. And of course, our rights are inalienable. We are entitled to it. They must be enforced. And so for me, I think that I speak in this manner because I know the leader we have now, the president we have now, he's so impartial. He believes in every Ghanaian enjoying their liberties. He believes in every Ghanaian giving their right to express whatever right they have or they are entitled to. And so, but for the same constitutional provisions, I am clear in my mind that this case doesn't benefit President Mahama in any form or shape. But the question is, as the leader and president of this country, once petitions of that nature are brought to your attention, as not too long ago we saw in the case of President Akufo-Addo, if you fail to ferry these petitions to the right courtesies, would there be implications or not? Definitely there will be constitutional implications. And so let's accept all this in the pursuit of our democratic experiment and strive hard to ensure that the ills that are identified we iron them out. Because when we make this country better, it is better for all of us. None of us in the NDC will rejoice over whether she goes or she stays. At the end of the day, we have nothing to benefit or nothing to lose. What concerns us is the bread and butter issues for which Ghanaians have given us the mandate, which we have begun by fixing the basis of the economy. Our prayer, and indeed preoccupation, is that we proceed from here and guarantee for Ghanaians that low cost of living, where basic food items in the market will be as low and affordable by all, where preservation of our rights will not be just a select few, but all of us, where we can sleep and rest in the night, believing, and indeed the security agencies working so well that all of us will be safe. I think that these are the material things that we are concerned about, even though what happened at the judiciary should be of concern to all of us. And it's the basis upon which the processes must be followed religiously. But you see, Prof has also mentioned something. If indeed some of these international bodies, whatever they come out with, the mother country has the right to, as it were, implement or not to implement, then you ask, what is the motive? What is the driving force of the Chief Justice for going to the ECOWAS court? Again, another legitimate question to ask is that, has she exhausted all the local remedies available to her? She is supposed to know better because the law lied in her bosom few days ago. And so if you've not exhausted all the avenues available to you to ensure the restoration of your right, and you jump ship and you go to that level, it means that the ECOWAS court can as well tell her that, okay, then come back, finish subjecting yourself, or raise the issues that you have, raise them in the local courts, and let us see the outcome. Then we can now come into it. So for me, it's a complex issue that opens up in several ways in the days ahead.
Well, speaking of that, Prof was saying that, or she, as you mentioned, she has the right to go to the courts at any time she wants to. But largely concerning the MPP and the benefit, you say it has no benefit to the presidency. The MPP's argument has always been that the NDC's motive is to remove the chairperson of the EC. And then they are beginning it with the removal of the CJ and putting someone who would hear the case that would favor the position of your government. And prior to December 7, they also allude to statements being made by then flag bearer, now president, concerning the judiciary, saying he will reset the judiciary. And they also allude to statements being made by the national chairperson now concerning the EC, saying the EC chair must go. And so if she must go, it means that the CJ will also go put someone there who would hear the substantive case for you. How do you respond to some of these allegations when they make them? Yesterday I was with the MPP here and same allegations were made.
I think the MPP, we expect them to be very constructive in professing policy positions, policy alternatives that will inure to the benefit of this nation, even though we know as opposition party, they are religiously preparing the ground to come back. Sometimes the sure route to coming back lies not in just churning out nuisance, criticism. You must be very constructive. Not too long ago, the same MPP presided over by Nanado as president told us that the president is only but a conversion chamber or conveyor belt whose only primary responsibility under the Constitution is to ferry petitions of this nature to their appropriate destination. Then I was thinking that, why must it be like that? Then I wasn't convinced that the president should just be a conveyor belt. But they made all of us believe that the president has no role. And indeed, when you read the Constitution thoroughly, the president is appropriate destination. So we sat in this country where the head of an independent constitutional body like the Electoral Commission was removed through procedures prescribed in this very 1992 Constitution. Then the argument was that there were procurement violations, there were petty quarrels among EC bosses and all this. But today you look at the replacement stock, those in charge of running Ghana's Electoral Commission, and you ask, in terms of competence, are you confident that these people have been able to live up to the billing? They have had every resource that is needed for the pursuit of their mandate. But look at the shambolic election they have presided over, which we still have to grapple with some, Ablekuma North. For the very first time in our constitutional journey, particularly on election, you have constituencies that have to be moved to Accra just to declare parliamentary election. We have never seen a thing of this nature. It is not for nothing that we say, look, the processes must end at the constituency level with respect to parliamentary election. But you have leaders who are being paid out of the sweat of the taxpayer, and they have given it such blanket, such crass incompetence in terms of their delivery. And so if the national chairman of the NDC says that giving the benefit of resources to them, giving the freedom to operate, no one impeded their operation, and they have delivered this level of incompetence, and that public office, you must be judged by your track record. Their track record not see that connection between the attempt to remove Chief Justice as the first in order to remove the Electoral Commission. No, the paths are completely different. The processes for their removal are completely different. It matters not who sits as the Chief Justice. Once there's been allegations and petitions of violations and wrongdoing, I believe strongly that the processes must be looked into. So I don't see the connection at all.
Now, the court yesterday dismissed the injunction application against the EC over decision to rerun elections in the Ablekuma North constituency. So as of now, what we do know is that by tomorrow, 8:20, some polling stations will see the votes happen. We are seeing it happening across 19 polling stations in the Ablekuma North constituency. I believe for the NDC, you consider it a win. And for the MPP, another position comes to bear that they are not happy with the EC's decision. They said they were pulling out of the race. They went to the court. It's been dismissed as well. There is even a further allegation that the NDC is strong-arming the EC chair already because there is the notice out there publicly that they want to take the EC chair out of office, made by key members of the NDC, as we mentioned earlier, Chairman Asiedu Nketia. The NDC has strongly armed the EC to do its bidding by rerunning the elections. It's a win for you because the elections as you wanted it to go is going to be rerun tomorrow. But your colleagues on the other side do not agree with you and are accusing you of strong-arming the EC to do your bidding. Is that the case?
It's interesting, and I wonder why my colleague is not here. But you see, look, this is just another layer of how confused and disorganized our opponents have become. When you suffer an embarrassing defeat of this magnitude, one expects that you sit, you reflect, and you take stock of the journey that has landed you this far. Then you put in place remedial measures. The MPP made all of us aware that following their embarrassing defeat, they have put a committee in place headed by the former Speaker of Parliament, Professor Michael Quay, as it were, to come out with reforms and establish the grounds and the basis, the causes, the reasons behind their defeat. But till date, we are yet to see the content of the Professor Michael Quay's report. The NPP itself doesn't know the content. If I'm not mistaken, my colleague here doesn't know. We expect some kind of sweeping reforms so that Ghanaians will rest assured that this is a party that has acknowledged their wrongdoing and is ready to take remedial actions. But you see, the only thing they are eager to do is to who becomes their flag bearer. And so they chose to install a king before looking for kingmakers. Oh, we will run flag bearership election, then after that, we'll come and elect party executives. Well, that is their own cup of tea. But back to this. We are where we are simply because the NDC says that every constituency must be legitimately represented. At the last time, when the NPP was in power, the good people of SAL, today GHOne constituency, they've strategically been cut off our electoral process. They cried, they raised red flags, they raised concern, but all those concerns fell on deaf ear. Today, we have a leader who believes in inclusion. Today, we have a leader who feels that every corner of this country needs representation. And so it is the basis upon which the NDC find it important, and subsequently our leader, Majority Chief Whip, invited the EC based on the questions that he has filed before the chamber. Then the EC came to tell us that they were ready with the results, except for the fact that they could not guarantee security, and that they were holding or appealing to the House, as it were, to appeal to the IGP to guarantee the right atmosphere for them to declare the result. Then we say, hey, hold it. Have you all the benefit of the entire 281 polling station results? Then they say no. And that is what's left with, I think, about 3. Then we say, look, the NDC has raised legitimate issues concerning about 37 polling station results, that they were scanned sheets that were not verified by the Electoral Commission own officers, that's the presiding officers. In all this, you have the NPP having their data, the NDC having their data. The only data that is neutral, the only data that is official and must be accepted is that of the EC. And so we asked the Electoral Commissioner, the remainder of the polling station, do you have your copies? Then they said no, they don't have all. Then we asked, how do you proceed to declare a member who represents the entirety of the constituency without the benefit of the entire result? Indeed, you recall that somewhere on December 10th, the NDC candidate then, who was declared winner, proceeded to court because Jean Mensah said, look, the declaration was not representative of the entire constituency of Ablekuma North, and that there were about 62 polling station results that were pending. Yes. And she believed that the result from those 62 had what it takes to affect the entire result, either left or right. And so that was the basis upon which they annulled that particular election declaration in favor of the NDC candidate. Then our candidate proceeded to court. And what did the court say? The court says that decisions on elections are a preserve of the Electoral Commission of Ghana. And so they should be allowed to go back and recollate the remainder of the polling station so that we see the true leader elected by the people of Ablekuma North. And that was how our candidate was thrown out from court. Now, fast forward, the EC came, and the two parties back and forth. We couldn't get all the total segment of the polling station that we needed. So for us in the NDC, particularly in Parliament, we said, look, we cannot sit and preside over another soil. Mind you, as it stands now, the NDC has 187 MPs, well over the threshold to form quorum to start proceedings in the House, to constitute quorum to push your decisions through. And so this single one seat, it is not a make or break for the NDC. That point must be well established. We are solid with or without that single seat. But even the Bible enjoins us that if you are a good shepherd and you send your flock to grazing and one is missing, look for that single one. Just so you bring all of them back. We believe that the people of Ablekuma North, just like the people of Domkwaminya, who would have thought that before now the NDC could ever win Domkwaminya constituency. The candidate was feeling, somehow already elected before the process, complacent. But we had the message, we had the best candidate, and we drove our message to conclusion, and the voter bought into it. Who would have thought that before now, the lives of Osler would have lost their seat to the NDC? And so the people of Ablekuma North saw that, no, the direction in which the country was headed was problematic. And there was the need for a reset. And they also voted for our candidate, Reverend Obin. And so my take is that in the midst of all this, once the MPP hasn't got the full complement of the pink sheet, we also do not have. And the EC, unfortunately, has disappointed Ghanaians. And so when the leader of our party says that these people must go, he wasn't just talking out of hatred, but there is substantial evidential value to their incompetence in the face of the benefit of resources that we handed them. Today, the two candidates are still alive. The MPP's candidate and the NDC's candidate. Today, the people of Ablekuma North are still alive. What is constant is that they say, look, come for a rerun of about 19 polling stations. The MPP was ready. They claimed that it was just 3 polling stations. If you are ready for 3 polling stations, why will you not be ready for 19 polling stations? Now, it doesn't lie within your bosom to determine how many polling stations are left with, particularly so when about 19 of the polling stations, as the EC has rightly posited, are those that have not been verified. Verified by who? Not the MPP candidate or the NDC candidate, but the presiding officers. They are those that the state has mandated under the authority of the Electoral Commission to do this exercise. And so, holding all things constant, we thought our brothers would have come back because their general secretary said, oh, they have won the election in excess of over 400 votes and is just left with some few polling stations. I'm happy he added that he's left with some few polling stations. It means that the process is still incomplete. Come and let's finish it. And you are running away. They are running away because if you look at the data from Global Info Analytics, prior to the general election, about 9% of indigenous MPP voters in Ablekuma North said openly that they weren't going to vote. Why? Their support base was so disillusioned. Kennedy Agyapong told all of us that the MPP lost the 2024 election even way back in 2022 when inflation was at 54%. Inflation is like a thief. if you pay the workers of this country and 54% of their money will just go down the drain, why would anybody be interested to vote for you? No wonder they lost with the margin of vote with which they lost. And so for us, the only thing that is guaranteed is that we knew from day one that we had a message, we had the best candidates, and that at the end of the day, we'll be able to sail through successfully. It's simply just predictable with their decision that they were not going to partake. It's fait accompli. You couldn't doubt. The outcome is known. We are only going to miss the razzmatazz, the jamborees, the running up and down, the campaign songs, and all those. I think that if the voter will miss anything, those are the things that the voter will miss. Otherwise, voter choices are informed by a variety of factors. And I do not see how the average Ablekuma North voter, knowing very well that these people presided over such a rotten economy for the past 8 years, and that power has slipped off their hand. Why will anybody say that in this circumstance where Mahama is fixing the economy, where confidence has bounced back, where every Ghanaian is expectant that tomorrow will be good, why will you go and elect a candidate who is associated with the regime that has made us to suffer the hardship? I think that it's inconceivable. And they have lost in advance. Thank God he's here, and I believe you'll be able to explain.
The Honourable Member of Parliament for the Judicial constituency, Abstain. Good morning.
Good morning, my brother.
How are you doing today?
I'm good.
Great. I'll give you the opportunity to respond to him, but before that, just an opportunity as well to eulogize your colleague, the Akwetia MP, who lost his life. Earlier, I was discussing with the Honourable Member for the Afaja Social constituency concerning the pressure of your work, if you're able to make time to, check your health and all of that as members of Parliament. I'll give you the opportunity to also do same before we come to the conversation about Ablekuma North.
Yes, thank you very much, and good morning to viewers. In fact, it's been a big blow to the good people of Akwetia and the NPP and the minority caucus, Parliament as a whole, and then the whole country. There's a young man that has a lot ahead of him. Particularly when we had no basis to expect what happened. We never saw him, frail in any form or manner. I'm told he had even traveled over the weekend for, some committee work and other things. So when we heard the news, we were really taken aback. Don't know how this young constantly keep reminding ourselves that it's like being on borrowed time. That is what the whole essence of life is about. We are not promised longevity, and so whatever we have to do for ourselves and for our nation, for our people, we need to do so timeously, minded of the fact that we don't know when our maker will recall us. So I think it's a solemn time to keep reminding ourselves, and particularly for the people of Akwetia, we share in their pain. We do. I've been seeing footages from the constituency, and trust me, the mood is a very sad one. In cases like this, the whole country is also not spared. We'll have to organize by-elections very soon, and its financial implications, on the treasury of the country. So, in a nutshell, I would say that our condolences, our heartfelt condolences to the family, particularly the wife and the children. I mean, coming out of harassed with one application or the other, one suit or the other, at a point in time when he was in Parliament, High Court was also convicting him for contempt. He had to run to the Supreme Court, to salvage the situation. Listening to my senior brother saying that they can do without any additional seat in Parliament, which I agree, what would then be the motive to have taken the young man through what he went through? And trust me, for some of us close to him, sitting at the back, we knew what he was going through. At a point in time, he said that he was not even going to contest in the next term. He was not, because he was tired. I mean, he didn't even know why he's gotten himself, into this ordeal in a constituency that you have won convincingly. So sitting here, maybe we should also, enjoin ourselves that even in this politics that we do, we should let love lead. We should let love lead beyond everything that we are doing. I'm sure that if the young man is to come back to life, the NDC would have said that, well, go and take your seat. At least we don't need it. And also use it to play an oversight role on government, which is very, very important. But hey, he's not coming back, to benefit from, that magnanimity, so to speak. I think that we should accord ourselves, some love, even as we practice our democracy and as we move forward. For us, we are encouraged. We are the mighty minority, 88 now -1, a big blow, but we will encourage ourselves. We will not be downtrodden. We will renew our strength for the mandate that is ahead of us, because the strength of every democracy is in the minority. That is what sometimes we lose focus on. The strength of every democracy is not in the government that has been elected. The government has the mandate. What will keep the government in check breaks on the enormous powers of government. It all rests on the shoulders of the minority. The government has been given the purse of the nation. Who is going to supervise that the mandate that you give to government is being executed in a manner and form that will benefit the Ghanaian people? It is the now 88 -1. You see, that is how important our mandate as minority is. But we'll renew our strength, in that mandate to make sure that the Ghanaian people get the best out of government.
88 -1, sad news for the House. But with the court dismissal of the injunction in respect of the EC's decision to rerun Ablekuma North, will the MPP now take a decision to perhaps consolidate its mighty minority by going for a +1?
Well, I listened to my senior brother giving a narrative that, suits his position and that of his party. I understand. I mean, if he were sitting in my place, I'm sure it would be the complete, the antithesis of whatever he has said. But you see, we don't want to leave a precedent that is dangerous. And anybody who is interested in this democracy we are practicing should begin to see things from that direction. It is not about just going to partake in the elections or otherwise, but it is about precedents. It is about our electoral sanity and making sure that going forward, the path that we are charting is one that is formidable and will not bring us electoral problems. My brother, we all know that elections are creatures of law. It is the law that creates elections, how it should be done, how it should be counted, how it should be declared, the mandate given to the EC, everything is contained in law. The law is also very careful not to create unguided, uncontrolled discretion. And so, when people go to the polls and they cast their vote, the mandate of the EC is clearly defined by law. You count to ascertain the winner from the votes. And once that record is there, and it can be done, there is no discretion, and in fact, a unilateral discretion to go out there and then declare a rerun. On what basis? On what basis, my brother? Are we saying that the people of Ablekuma, did not vote? Are we saying that the records pertaining to their votes cannot be found? Are we saying that we cannot do a simple collation of votes that were duly cast? So what is the basis for this rerun? And my brother, more serious is even when you check the trajectory from where the EC took us to today. The narrative of the EC has always been that we don't have a problem. We have everything it takes, all the records it takes to collate and declare. Our only problem is with security to collate the additional 3 polling stations that were left. My brother, I hope you remember that this is the narrative that has been given to us. Right. And in fact, in the press of the EC itself, that is what they said, that we have no problem at all. And when they were given the opportunity, some collations were done in trenches. About 2 or 3 were done with the representatives of both parties. And so we were told that it's left with only 3 polling stations to complete the whole process. Then what happened? It's interesting that in the narrative of my brother, it didn't feature that any time the EC tried to do the collation of the remaining 3 polling stations, we had people who went on social media and called tax to march to the office of the EC to cause mayhem. And we saw it on TV. Why is it not featuring in the narrative? Why is it not featuring? We had tax sitting on motorbikes with weapons, marching to the office of the EC. And the officers of the EC had to run for their lives. And these were captured on footages. And so the EC has not been able to discharge that mandate. Then the matter comes to court. And as my brother indicated, the High Court says that, look, go back and do the recollation. Now with security provided by the Ghana Police. So there's an order directed to the IGP. By extension, there's an order directed to the executive, because the IGP is in the executive arm, when you are doing classifications of that is where they fall. Then the IGP is not able to do that. And when orders are coming from the court to an IGP to just provide security, and the IGP is not able to do that, and government sits unconcerned, and the orders of the High Court has been disregarded as if it was never made. Well, my brother, is that not more worrying?
Well, there is on record a meeting that the IGP convened with the EC on the same matter concerning security and to look at modalities for the collation to be done. As well, indeed, you referenced the High Court's judgment of January 4, 2025. But of course, yesterday, the courts then again set aside the injunction that you sought. And so for us, you definitely, demonstrably, you are not happy with what is happening. But will the MPP decide just to go in for the rerun of the 19 polling stations? Or, like I asked earlier, you're willing to sacrifice Ablekuma North?
You see, my brother, when the whole process is hinged on illegality, it becomes difficult to also, be a partaker of that venture.
Because the High Court says it's okay. The EC can go ahead.
See, I'll get there. But my brother, you see, if a matter becomes sub judice and the court gives orders, if for any reason the orders of the court cannot be carried out, you come back to the same court for the court to review the orders, or for the court to maybe even set aside its own order. You do not take a different tangent as if no order of the court exists.
What about the court's position when we're given that order that the EC is an independent body? What about that clause? Does it not indicate the fact that the EC can take decisions based on the fact that I'm the one collating the results? I don't have, for lack of, to give the benefits of doubt, 37 is in contention, 18 has been agreed. The 19 that is remaining, there's no agreement on it. So let's rerun. Can the EC not be allowed to make that decision?
You see, my brother, the independence of the EC does not mean that they are immune from judicial orders. And in fact, in our constitution, every natural or non-natural person, every institution, even the highest office of the state is subject to judicial powers. And so if the matter comes to court, the EC itself goes to court every now and then. If the matter comes to court, the EC itself goes to court every now and then. And that is in no way a threat to their independence. But the problem is that taking an action that completely disregards an existing order, if you ask me, that is contemptuous. If you ask me, I think that you have to come back to that same court to tell your difficulties. And do you know the advantages with that? What it means is that all other interested parties can make input before the court. All other interested parties. And that is our problem. The decision to rerun is unilateral.
There was an IPAC meeting discussing the 37 polling station in contention. There's agreement on 18. There's no agreement on 19. The AC says, then let's rerun the polling station. Because, and so if you say unilateral, there was an IPAC meeting. So the EC did not alone make that decision. They met rep from the MPP.
Yes, but we are not agreeable. As in, that is the decision of the EC. It is not a decision emanating from any consensus. That is a decision of the EC. My brother.
So will the MPP be willing to sacrifice Ablekuma North based on the illegality?
Well, the party has taken a decision.
So you will not contest tomorrow?
That is the decision of the party. That is the decision of the party. Although it will not discount the fact that if the MPP had decided to partake, there's a high probability that we will win that seat.
Yeah, so there are some people who disagree with the party's position.
Yes,
so based on what you're saying, why not just go ahead and run?
My brother, principles and precedents is important than any immediate benefit.
So you're not running based on principle.
I mean, what is life without principle? What is life? I mean, if you look at the situation as it is, and then the MPP partakes in these elections. Tomorrow, you have another power-hungry EC. I'm not saying that one day is power-hungry, but I'm saying that if you get another version who probably has some personal tendencies, that person may declare rerun arbitrarily. And what will be the effect of that on our democracy? So I think at this stage, it is better that we are principled. And it's better that we reiterate what the position of the law and procedure is relative to elections, so that it doesn't become as and when, putting the whole electoral at the beck and call of the EC to declare rerun as and when they feel. My brother, have you also averted your mind to the narrative that we were fed over time, and then the quick U-turn that has been made? It was just recently that the EC came to Parliament.
I recall that.
And yes, and my brother, I'm sure, was in the chamber. And the EC told us that all they need is security to complete the 3 remaining polling stations. We were never told that documents relating to 19 polling stations were not found. We were never told, not even in the chamber. And in the press of the EC earlier on, never featured anything like the difficulty that we are being told now. And for some of us, particularly me, I'm very hesitant in running down a state institution because I've been an advocate for the integrity of a state institution, particularly one like the EC. But you see, people will begin to read in between the lines. It was recently when the chairman of the NDC sneezed. Then the EC caught the fever. Can it be the case? Can we make that logical, connection that persons within the helms of affairs in the EC are fearing for their tenure, for which reason they want to dance to the tune of the NDC?
I think the news about the NDC and its position on the EC was before and even after the elections, and you mentioned Chairman Asidin Ketia. But of course, there's been elements within the NDC who are key leading members who have mentioned that, well, GHOne will not be removed if she has not done anything wrong. Process will be followed. Due process will be followed. Do you not have any confidence in
Well, we have also heard leading members of the NDC saying that after the Chief Justice is gone, the EC is the next place to be cleansed. We've heard it severally. And so we are all wondering why the Electoral Commissioner and the EC as a whole would themselves bring out a presser, would themselves bring out a paper to say that this is the state of affairs. 3 polling stations in contention. And even that, what we need is some sanity. You come to Parliament, reiterate the same point, and then a week down the line, you have made a U-turn. Now you are saying you cannot account for 19 polling stations. And even that, what we are being told is that the presiding officers did not sign. And that is the sole reason for declaring the rerun.
Are you also not concerned of a precedent being set by declaring elections results in constituencies based on scanned pink sheets and not the EC's own verifiable pink sheets?
You see, my brother, what is the position of the law? I mean, when we go to court, we have what we call the best evidence rule. So in certain circumstances, when the proper foundation has been laid, a copy is as good as the original. In our everyday life, how many times do we not rely on copies of an original document, especially when it has been attested to by both parties and they are not denying their mark on those scanned documents? And that is the law. See, the issue also about presiding officers not signing, for which reason, I think we have a solid precedent in this country relative to the presidential election petition. And so are we going back to create a precedent that when people queue to exercise their constitutional and civic duty, that enterprise can be nullified by one person in the name of a presiding officer who decides not to discharge his duty, although representatives of both parties have signed, and there's no contention to the genuineness or validity of the content thereon, the whole process should go down because a presiding officer did not sign. All these reasons that we have been giving looks like a certain attempt to find an excuse. And that is the difficulty with the MPP. It looks like, I mean, at all costs, we should find something to, you know, ground our you know, aim to do the rerun. Otherwise, we do not know why somebody will come to Parliament and tell us what later is also said not to be the state of affairs. I see one, a breach,